All right. What's up, everybody? Thanks for clicking this video. Thanks for tuning into my channel. My name is Simon Hill, Black American from Louisiana, coming to you live from Budapest, Hungary. It's Christmas Day, 2024, and the grind never stops. We just got our YouTube Google checks 2 days ago and used that to put groceries in the fridge and keep the lights on and shit like that. So the grind never stops, and we're going to continue to hit these lives every day, continue to upload on this channel to make sure that, we can stay fed and stay bred. You feel me? And and we're going to be just reading a few stories, and I'm going to be giving my reactions to them on the channel as we usually do. A bit tired because I just came from the gym, and I got a lot of more things to do today. So, yeah, just to give some plugs real quick, go subscribe to Culturalist Theory. I got a few videos posted up on there, the recent ones that have done really well: Destiny's Child, MF Doom, Zero, Trade the Truth, Tinashe, etc., etc. You can check out all the videos that I help write for on the playlist on my channel titled Things I Write for Other People. Go subscribe to Backpack Bandits if you like the travel content that I do as well, and continue to watch the other content that we upload on this channel. We got another movie review dropping today for Holiday Heart, which is a black classic Christmas movie. Going to be putting that up later today. Also dropping some other stuff as well. The Blacks at Hungary rough draft and some more stuff with Santa Hill Keeps It Trill posted up today as well. So today is going to be a big day on this channel for all the people that will rock with me. And Bafulu Baka says, what up, Simon says. Shout out to Bakulu Baka. Shout out to you out there in the world, wherever you are. And Merry Christmas to you and your family, and everybody else is going to be joining the live stream or watching this on playback. Anyway, I've been talking enough on the intro. Let's jump into some stuff right here. So today's Christmas Day, so I have a few Christmas stories I want to read. First, let's talk about peace. Pope calls for peace on Christmas as church begins Jubilee year celebrations. Pope Francis' Christmas message was a plea for reconciliation, peace, and care for others. I'm still surprised this Argentine motherfucker is alive, man. How's he still kicking? I swear to God, like being a rich, powerful person in the world, you get access to the best doctors and your lifespan gets extended beyond what it needs to be. Isn't he like 90 or something like that? And I still think it's a shame that the Catholic Church didn't make Desmond Tutu the Pope. Do you think we'll ever see a black pope in our lifetime? That might be a better poll than the one about Jesus that I have. But anyway, this story was written by Elisabetta Povoledo. Elisabetta Povoledo is a reporter based in Rome, covering Italy, the Vatican, and the culture of the region. This was published on December 25th, 2024. As Christians around the world celebrated Christmas on Wednesday, Pope Francis called for peace, asking that ceasefires be put in place where wars rage and that world leaders forgive the debts that burden the poorest countries. Speaking to the thousands gathered in St. Peter's Square in Vatican City for his Christmas blessing and message, Francis returned to the topic of two military conflicts that have dominated his thoughts and his public remarks for many months. In Ukraine, he called for the boldness needed to open the door to negotiation and to gestures of dialogue and encounter in order to achieve a just and lasting peace. And he called for the sound of arms to be silenced in the Middle East. His thoughts, he said, were with Christians in the Gaza Strip, where the humanitarian situation is extremely grave for all who live there. Number one thing that I find hypocritical about America, we say we're a Christian nation and that we care about Christianity. Our founding fathers were Christian, yet and still, right now, we have the Zionists in Israel murdering Christians, not only in the Gaza Strip, but in the West Bank as well, and also treating them like second-class citizens in the actual state of Israel. It's kind of hilarious how Americans, particularly on the right, say that America's a Christian nation, yet Christians are being killed right now by Israel in the West Bank and in Gaza. And it's interesting that the Pope is bringing this up as well, which should be something that reminds the entire Western world that wants to base its, identity on Christianity. Continue. So Pope Francis urged the delivery of aid to the people worn out by hunger and by war in Gaza, as well as a ceasefire and the release of the hostages who have been held since the Hamas-led attack on Israel 14 months ago. He made the remarks a day after the start of Roman Catholic Church's Holy Year, known as a Jubilee, which takes place every quarter century. On Tuesday evening, Francis opened the Holy Door in St. Peter's Basilica so that the first pilgrims could go through. Millions more are expected to follow over the year. Hope is the theme of the Jubilee year, and on Wednesday, Francis invited every individual in all peoples and nations to find the courage needed to walk through that door, to become pilgrims of hope, to silence the sound of arms and overcome divisions. Holy doors will be opened in Rome's main basilicas and also in the city's Rebibbia prison, which the Pope is expected to visit on Thursday. Jesus awaits all people, Francis said. He awaits prisoners who, everything notwithstanding, are still children of God. Absolutely. We need to think of the prisoners. We need to think of all the people on death row across the world. We need to think about all the people who are rightly and unjustly imprisoned all across the world, because that's what Jesus would do. Going to Bakula Baka, he says the Pope is all talk. This guy couldn't care less about humanity. I agree. I agree to some extent. You know, the Pope is a political figure, and he's also, you know, let's keep it frank, an old white man. And of course, you know, most old white men are tacitly in support of white supremacy as well. So I agree with you, Bakula Baka, but I'm also applauding the Pope for, you know, generally speaking about these issues and being frank about the desire for peace, because we all want peace across the world. Nelson Moreno says, gays for Gaza is like chicken for KFC, white Christian Zionists. I mean, that's what the, you know, the right wing like to say, like, oh, if you were gay or a woman in Gaza, right, they would, you know, treat you like a second-class citizen or throw you off of a building or something like that. But that shouldn't matter. I mean, a genocide is genocide. What's wrong is wrong. And we can still condemn the right-wing backwards thinking in Gaza and still also uphold their humanity, especially Christian life, because I thought the West cared about Christians. Continuing here. The Pope's solemn blessing and message titled "To the City and to the World" is delivered twice a year. And on Wednesday, Francis spoke from a balcony on the facade of the Basilica. The tens of thousands packing the square cheered loudly when the Pope appeared. Vatican and Italian bands played the Italian national anthem and the pontifical anthem. Francis is the sovereign of the Vatican city-state. In his Christmas message, Francis pleaded for peace and dialogue around the world, citing conflicts including in those in Lebanon, Myanmar, Syria, and the Horn of Africa. He spoke of the devastating effects of climate change, resulting in the loss of life and the displacement of millions of people. He asked that hope touch the families of thousands of children who are dying from an outbreak of measles in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And he prayed that the Jubilee, a moment of faith and reconciliation, would be an opportunity to tear down all the walls of separation, the ideological walls that so often mark political life. In his Christmas Eve homily on Tuesday, Francis also focused on hope, saying that it calls us to become pilgrims in search of truth, dreamers who never tire, women and men open to being challenged by God's dream of a new world where peace and justice reign. Francis urged the faithful to get out of their comfort zone and think of others. Hope calls people to be bold, responsible, and compassionate, he said. All of us have received the gift and task of bringing hope wherever hope has been lost. Lives broken, promises unkempt, dreams shattered, and hearts overwhelmed by adversity. The opening of the Holy Door and the Christmas celebrations kick off what will be a challenging year for Francis, who turned 88 this month and now habitually switches between a wheelchair and a cane during public appearances. Dozens of events are scheduled throughout the year, and Romans are girding for a large influx of pilgrims on top of the 20 million tourists who visited the city this year. For some years now, Francis's health has been a source of concern. The pontiff was hospitalized for colon surgery in 2021 and in 2023 for a respiratory infection and a hernia. After Francis spoke, the bands again played the anthems and then marched under his gaze. People in the crowd cheered, "Viva il Papa! Long live the Pope!" All right. So Nelson Moreno says, if you watch a movie today, watch Conclave. All right, I might watch Conclave and do a review. So yeah, to Nelson Moreno for that. Anyway, yeah, shout out to the Pope for at least speaking about these issues. And yeah, I just wish that the Pope actually, puts his money where his mouth is, because if I remember right, like the Catholic Church is like one of the richest organizations in the world. Like they have billions, if not close to $1 trillion under their command and control. So, the Roman Catholic Church can do a lot more than just talk about these issues. They could actually fund some initiatives to help solve these crises as well. Anyway, continuing on about Christmas, we're going to continue to talk about Christmas here. In southern Lebanon, trauma and grief mark a somber Christmas. The ancient Christian community in the coastal city of Tyre has little cause for celebration this year, with many mourning their dead and still rattled by months of Israeli bombardment. So we're going to continue to talk about, the Christian world and what's happening. What's happening in Lebanon has been a tragedy. I mean, if Zionism doesn't prove out to be, colonial, imperialistic, all that sort of stuff, by what we've seen this year, how Israel acted in Lebanon, is acting in Syria, is acting in the West Bank, and is acting in Gaza, then I don't know what will convince an atheist to be a believer. Nelson Moreno says, it's also more charitable organization in the world. Look it up. Okay, shout out to Nelson. I mean, maybe the Catholic Church also does a lot of charity, but I think, they could also fund organizations or movements or something that could cause institutional change, because charity just sort of recreates the issues. I mean, we've had charity since humans, accumulated wealth. And we've still not solved poverty. We've still not solved hunger. We've still not solved child mortality. You get what I'm saying? So I think the Catholic Church could do more other than just charity work, which is a good thing. But I think there's more systemic change that they could be a part of. Nelson Moreno says, Lebanon has black slaves. Ain't that the truth? Yes, there's anti-blackness all across the world as well. But this is a Christmas episode to some degree, so we're going to be reading about that. So this was published on December 25th, 2024 by Ewan Ward, and he's reporting from Tyre, Lebanon. So one by one, the churchgoers trudged into the bare brick cathedral in the southern Lebanese city of Tyre for the last Sunday Mass before Christmas, their clothes sodden by rain and their minds haunted by war. There were no parties this year for the children, no music recitals, and no Christmas tree in the city square. Much of the city is gone. Flattened apartment buildings, mangled cars, thrown out in abandoned mom and pop stores. After months of Israeli airstrikes, the holiday season began not with celebration, but with funerals as church members tended to their dead. The pastor, Yaqub Saab, did his best to lift spirits as he stepped up to the altar. It's a great blessing to gather and pray together, he said. Later, out of earshot of his parishioners, he conceded that we are finding it difficult to celebrate. I just want to take a minute right now. Like, if you're watching this live stream, you're doing much, much better than many other people in the world, right? If you're a Lebanese person and you're a Christian and you're going to church or you're trying to celebrate Christmas, it's a likely possibility that some of your family members died. Some of your friends died this year. Your home might have been destroyed. You might have lost your job. So many other things. We have so many things to be grateful for this Christmas, because there are so many people out there in the world who lost everything this year, or they lost a great deal. So, hamdulillah, hamdulillah. Anyway, so amid a ceasefire between Israel and the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah, Tyre's ancient Christian community has resigned itself to a muted Christmas this year. While most of Tyre's 125,000 residents fled during the war, the city's Christian quarter, nestled alongside the harbor with its winding alleyways, was one of the few neighborhoods where some people remained. For months, they survived largely on handouts of bread, cut off from the outside world as water, electricity, and medicine dwindled. I mean, just look at the devastation right here, my guy. All right, look at this, man. Look at this. This is crazy. This is crazy. My guy, Nelson Moreno, says, I don't care about you if your country has black slaves. That's a true thing as well. Like, the anti-blackness in Lebanon needs to be addressed. But I think also, we cannot forget our humanity. And we also shouldn't get involved in the sense that we put our lives in danger for people that are anti-black. Okay? Nelson Moreno says slaves of the races are okay. Okay, if you mean like enslaving racists, I mean, I don't think we should enslave racist people. But yeah, man, like Lebanon has a storied history of anti-blackness. I mean, we hear about the stories of, the African migrant workers who go there to be maids and servants, and then they get raped, they get thrown over balconies. Some are killed. I mean, they have the kafala system in Lebanon where you have to surrender your passport when you get there, and you basically can't leave unless your employer says so, which is basically slavery. So yeah, that's pretty bad, right? But yet and still, let's not lose our humanity, right? Imagine you were living in this neighborhood, the Zionists come and blow it up, and now you have to celebrate Christmas. I mean, come on, let's not lose humanity, my guy. But yeah, definitely looking at these old Lebanese men, they definitely call black people slaves, right? They still use words like zanj and abid when referring to black people. And those two things can exist at the same time. We can keep our humanity and have pity for others, but we should also scorn them for their anti-blackness. So continuing here. Despite the reprieve from the violence in recent weeks, the community remains haunted by trauma and loss. When friends and loved ones cross paths in the street, festive greetings are the last thing on anyone's tongue. Thank God for your safety, they would say. On Sunday, after Mass was over, Charbel Alameh, 11, ran outside and jostled among friends to ring the church bells, the boys leaping into the air and pulling down with all their might on the hefty ropes. Charbel had gone months without seeing their faces. His mother, Soraya Alameh, who was pregnant, had decided to stay put when other families in the neighborhood fled. She feared having to give birth away from home in a hospital crammed with war wounded. Like many Lebanese, the Alameh family has been caught off guard by Israel's sudden bombing campaign in late September. The ramped up offensive followed nearly a year of hostilities between Israel and Hezbollah, which began firing rockets at Israel in October 2023 in solidarity with Hamas militants in Gaza. Faced with one of the most intense air raids in contemporary warfare, hundreds of thousands of people tried to flee, and the highways in southern Lebanon quickly clogged with miles of bumper-to-bumper traffic. I mean, this is just tragic, man. Look at this, man. Once again, man, look at this. Imagine you're living in these situations. Of course, some of these people are anti-black. Of course, some of these people are very ignorant. But let's not lose our humanity. Let's not become the beast. We are here to fight the beast. We are not to become the beast. I think that's an important thing as well, right? Continuing on with the story here. There was nowhere for us to go, recounted Miss Alameh, as she sat in the family's damp, single-room home, watching intently over little Christina as she slept in her cot, a child of war born into an uncertain peace. Bakula Baka says the hypocrisy of it all. Expound on that. Let me know what you mean by the hypocrisy. I don't know if you're talking about me or the article. Let me know what you mean, Bakula Baka. Continuing here. After months spent sheltering as Israeli fighter jets roared overhead, members of the family were desperate to claw back some sense of holiday cheer. They had already prepared and wrapped their gifts months ago, ready to cart them away in case they needed to flee. Charbel and his younger brother, Elias, had decorated a small Christmas tree in the corner and were now tucking into baklava as members of the local clergy came in to see the newborn baby. All right, Nelson Moreno says, racism doesn't recognize my humanity. I mean, that's a very good point, right? But I think if we allow ourselves to lose our humanity, meaning losing our ability to empathize with others, care about others, and see beyond ourselves, which we should be able to do, because we have to remember, as black men especially, we are the original man. Right? We are the original people on the planet Earth. We are the truest form of humanity, and our lineage is the oldest on the planet. So we are at a state right now in human history where black men and black people in general are at the bottom. We should always try to hold on to this idea, the truth actually, not actually an idea, but the truth, that we are the truest form of humanity, and we should be able to express all forms and types of humanity. That's what I'm thinking, right? We hate anti-blackness. We hate racism. We hate any type of discrimination against melanated people, especially African melanated people. But that does not mean, in my opinion, that we lose the ability to empathize with others, right? Nelson Moreno says, give them some milk. Okay, well, let's just put a big white titty in their face. Okay. Anyway, some boys, continuing here. So both boys are receiving trauma counseling at school. Miss Alame said, "We tried to explain as much as a child's understanding allows," she said. "But at the end of the war, we, the adults, needed someone to explain what had happened too." Next door, the Kawaji family's home was devoid of decoration. Where a Christmas tree once stood, there was now just a collection of empty water bottles. With running water scarce during the bombardment, family members had made a perilous journey to the neighborhood's outskirts to fill up the containers and lug them home. They said they had survived mostly on boiled potatoes cooked atop a simple burner affixed to a gas canister. Continuing here, man. Once again, man, let's not lose our humanity. Let's not lose our humanity. Not lose our humanity. There's people right now who don't have the chance to be on Simon Hill Keeps It Trill's live stream because they lost power, they lost Wi-Fi, you know what I mean? There's no heating in their homes. You get what I'm saying? Poor Lebanese. And trust me, I'm going to talk about Africa soon, so don't think I'm over here simping and caping for the Arabs, the racist Arabs. Don't do that. Don't do that to me now. Anyway, we surrendered ourselves to God, said Rita Kawaji, gesturing to the Christian iconography that adorned the home's peeling walls. This was not their first war. Miss Kawaji's daughter, Naza, or Nana, as her family calls her, is deaf in one ear after she was maimed as a 7-month-old baby when they said an Israeli strike hit a relative's home more than 3 decades ago. Miss Kawaji herself was injured in the blast, the shrapnel still lodged centimeters from her heart. "We've lived our whole life in war," she said. Nana Kawaji sat on the family's couch, her neck adorned with a small gold cross, and at times strained to hear her family speak. She had hastened to design the nativity scene at the church as soon as the ceasefire was announced, but it had done little to cheer up her normally bubbly 7-year-old daughter. "There are barely any celebrations this year," Nana said. "Mentally, we are unable." In the weeks since the truce was reached, life has begun to stutter back to normal in Tyre, where tens of thousands of residents have returned to the coastal city. Teenage girls snap selfies on the seafront, fishermen repair their nets, groups of friends sit in cafes, gossiping over cups of bitter, cardamom-infused Arabic coffee. All right, going to the comments here. Nelson Moreno says, "Only the dead don't suffer." I don't know what you mean by that, but I mean that's the truth, man. But man, look at this, man. Look at this. You got to live amongst the rubble after what the Zionists did to destroy your country, man. And once again, I'm not here caping for the Arabs. We're just trying to maintain some humanity here. But yeah, no heating, homes destroyed, people lost everything, man. But yeah, the anti-blackness is still there. I mean, they got the white Santa Claus. They're still victims of white supremacy to some degree. But yeah, let's finish up this article right here. The destruction, however, is not easy to ignore. On the city's main shopping street, businesses that once bustled in the holiday season have been pulverized, and some of those that remain have been blackened by fire. Jewelry stores, restaurants, chic swimwear outlets, many have been reduced to rubble. The torsos of shop mannequins strewed amid the rubble. In the remnants of one residential building, a sole curtain fluttered in the wintry breeze. The floors below it were collapsed like a pancake. "We're still alive," one man called down as he combed through what was left of his apartment. At Noor and Mahdi Akhanan's toy store, the husband and wife had only recently reopened after an airstrike across the street gutted their building, destroying what they said was nearly $35,000 in stock. Now just a flimsy piece of paper advertised their store name. They had placed outside one of the few objects to survive the blast, a saxophone-playing Santa Claus, in the hopes of enticing customers. "The demands for toys is very little this year," said Miss Akhanan. "The store had sold only 7 items since reopening and may be forced to close," Miss Akhanan said, gesturing to a family across the way pulling belongings from the flattened building. "Priority," she said, "they don't want to celebrate anything." Let's just make this clear, everybody. For anybody joining the live stream late, plenty of Christians out in the Middle East. Plenty of Christians with that dark skin, olive skin, hazel eyes, all that sort of stuff. Where is America, man? Where is America? Where's the West that wants to stand up for Christian values? Meanwhile, Christians are getting slaughtered, their homes destroyed, and they have to flee like refugees out of their homes. Nelson Moreno, it says, "Great suffering proves that there is great peace. They're experiencing a great opportunity They don't have toys. They need to become men. Pray to white Jesus. They don't need toys. They need to become men. I get what you're saying, man. I mean, Frederick Douglass says there is no progress without struggle. I agree with you, Nelson. You know what I mean? But I do not think that, suffering in the sense of homes being destroyed and people becoming refugees is necessarily something that people have to go through. These are man-made catastrophes that people are experiencing all across the world, in Sudan, in Somalia, in America, where we're still victims of white supremacy and we're still the subject of police violence and state violence, right? All of this suffering that is happening in the world, still on Christmas Day, right, is not something that needs to happen, right? The black slaves are going through much worse. I agree with you, Nelson Moreno. I agree with you. Speaking of black people, let's go to Africa. Let's go to Africa on Christmas Day. We're going to Africa, to a country called Mayotte. Has anybody heard of Mayotte? Cyclone on French archipelago exposes resentments over immigrants. In the ruins left by Cyclone Chido, people from Mayotte, off the eastern coast of Africa, are calling to deport the undocumented immigrants who had settled there from neighboring islands. So we're going to Africa, guys. Don't think I was just here caping for the Arabs. We're going to talk about other people who are suffering on this Christmas Day, while many of us are living quite well. Right? So this article was written by John Elegon, who I read all the time. He's always reporting from Africa. And so this was written by John Elegon and Julie Bourdin, published on December 25th, 2024 for the New York Times. After a vicious cyclone this month razed slums housing many undocumented immigrants on the French island territory of Mayotte, Safina Sula did not shed a tear. As the leader of an advocacy organization representing people from Mayotte, Ms. Sula staunchly supported an operation that the French authorities started last year to destroy the slums and deport undocumented immigrants, most of whom come from nearby Comoros Islands. She hailed the cyclone as a divine wambashu. I don't know how to say this word. Divine wambashu. Divine wambashu sounds like a bad bitch that you slept with on your trip to South Africa. Man, I met this girl. Her name was Divine Wambashu. Man. Anyway, she hailed the cyclone as a divine wambashu, using the name of the slum clearance operation, and added, now the state must react quickly and forbid the reconstruction of these shanty towns. Cyclone Chido, which struck on December 14th and killed at least 39 people, is inflaming already dangerous tensions over immigration on Mayotte, an archipelago off Africa's eastern coast. After the disaster, France's Interior Ministry said that nearly a third of Mayotte's 320,000 residents were undocumented immigrants. Locals are calling for the government to ramp up efforts to deport them. Many Mayorais are, as locals are known, have long blamed immigrants for committing crimes and straining resources. Mayotte, where nearly 80% of the residents live in poverty, is the poorest place in France. So yeah, let's all remember that France still has colonies, guys. France is still a colonial power. They have colonies in South America with French Guiana. They have Fiji. They have Mayotte. They have another island, New Caledonia, as well in the Pacific. Many people still live under colonial control of France. The age of colonization is not over, right? And it's a shame, actually, that there are African people who are living in the poorest part of France, blaming immigrants for their poverty, when before the immigrants weren't the reason they were poor. It's just because of the racist structure of France's society that allows the Mayorais, the people of Mayotte, to remain poor, right? But let's still hate ourselves. Let's hate ourselves and hate people that look like us, rather than pointing the finger at the people that have put us in this predicament, that literally have us living in a colony. Nelson Moreno says, why are immigrants going to a colonial island? Well, of course they're going there because of capitalism. They're going there because they want to earn euros. They're going there because they want a better life for their children, of course. But we have to remember that the number one source of wealth for Europe and the Western world comes from Africa. So when Africans are moving to European territories, especially if they're in Africa, they're just going to get the wealth that is extracted from their own continent. Let's keep that absolutely a buck. Can you blame water if you get wet? Says Nelson Moreno. I don't know exactly what you mean by that. Anyway, so the people of Mayotte and Comoros share a common ancestry. However, in a decisive referendum in 1974, Mayotte was the only part of the Comoros archipelago that voted to remain part of France. In recent years, people on Mayotte have attacked the homes of immigrants and stood in front of hospitals and immigration offices to block immigrants from entering. Mayorais have voted in large numbers for far-right nationalist politicians who have lobbied for tougher immigration laws specific to Mayotte. Among their demands is ending birthright citizenship for children born to non-French parents on the islands. So here's a picture of Mayotte after the destruction of the cyclone that hit earlier this month. Once again, if you're watching this on this Christmas day, be thankful, man. Be thankful. It could be a lot worse, man. Anyway, continuing here. After the cyclone hit, France's Interior Minister, Bruno Retailleau, gave a television interview saying that France needed to take a more aggressive stance against illegal immigration as a part of the reconstruction efforts. He suggested using drones to monitor and stop the boats bringing migrants illegally from Comoros, accusing its government of pushing populations towards Mayotte to create a kind of illegal occupation. Wow. All right. Nelson Moreno says, go back to Africa. They're already in Africa. They're already in Africa. They're literally just going to another part of Africa that France still controls from a holdover from its big empire that they had back in the day. So Super Amigo says, damn, that's some intense explaining. I don't know exactly what you mean. We read in this article here from the New York Times. I don't know what you think about, the article, but let me know what you think. Nelson Moreno says, that shit as island. That shit's an island. I don't know what you mean, man. You got to put it in words that I understand. That shit as island. Anyway, continuing here. On Tuesday, the French government announced that it was restoring boat service between Mayotte and Comoros and that Cameroonians could use it to return home free of charge. Okay? Super Amigo says, I'm new. Well, welcome to the channel. Please subscribe. Please like. We do these daily readings of the news articles out for the day for just an hour and chop it up with the people. So if you got a question, if you have your take on this article, we're reading about this cyclone that hit the island country of Mayotte in Africa. And now people are somehow blaming the immigrants for the destruction. So that's what we're reading about. But let's continue here. And by the way, here's Mayotte on a map, guys. Here's Comoros. Here's Mayotte. And yeah, I've been to Africa. I've been to Tanzania. I went to Kenya. I also went to Mauritius, somewhere out here in the ocean as well. So yeah, let us know what you think about this story. Anyway, Andre Beja says, hey, Simon, I'm really sorry for not joining your lives, but now that school is finished, I can join your lives more often. Shout out to Andre Beja as well. I'm in school as well. I should be studying right now. In fact, I will be studying later today, but shout out for joining. Nelson Moreno says, they're like people from the projects who move to other projects. I mean, Mayotte and Comoros are like this. Like, imagine if like Portugal and Spain were somehow, not on good terms, or like Spain was a part of the EU and Portugal wasn't, and it was illegal for Portuguese people to move to Spain, right? But the shared history and a common land that y'all share, on Hispaniola, you might as well just move between borders. You get what I'm saying? Borders aren't real, guys. We got to stop caring so much about nationalism and borders. Like, it's really stupid. Anyway, on Tuesday, the French government announced that it was restoring boat service between Mayotte and Comoros and that Cameroonians could use it to return home free of charge. France's Prime Minister, Francois Bayrou, said on Tuesday that he expected the final death toll from the cyclone to remain in the dozens. While surveying the demolished shantytowns, the top French officials in Mayotte at first announced that hundreds, if not thousands, had likely perished. Immigrants in Mayotte have described living a precarious existence long before the cyclone hit. They say they are constantly stopped by the police. Many have been deported multiple times. After each deportation, they take a dangerous 43-mile journey on a rickety boat from Comoros to reunite with their families in Mayotte. All right. Mad Villainy says Tanzania, Rwanda, and Mauritius are two. Shout out to Mad Villainy out there. Yeah. I would say Mauritius is number one. Like, if you're gonna leave America and you have not been to Africa before, Mauritius is a great start to visit. People speak English, great infrastructure, easy to move around on this small island. Mauritius is dope, and it's not that expensive. There was an oil spill there recently, so some of the beaches might be closed. But yeah, Mauritius is dope. I didn't get a chance to visit Rwanda, but I've heard good things about Rwanda as well. They speak English generally. It's hella safe, good infrastructure. Tanzania, you know how I feel about Tanzania. Super Amigo says, respect, subbed. I want to know more about what you know. Expand my horizons. Okay, well, hey man, I'm just a young black man from America trying to make it in this capitalistic world. And I like learning, I like teaching, I like educating myself and others, and I like being challenged as well. So let us know what you think about these articles. Nelson Moreno says, isn't Mauritian Indian country? There's a lot of Indians there, but there's a lot of black people. It's like 50-50. Mad Villainy says, I remember the oil spill there. Okay. Nelson Moreno says, visit Cape Verde. I want to visit Cape Verde, but I got to practice my Portuguese. Bom dia, tudo bem. Obrigado. Okay. Andre Beja says, I hope to meet you one day, Simon. I hope to meet you too, Andre Beja, but I'm just going to make sure I wear my bulletproof vest because I heard you Albanians are hella gangster. Anyway, continue with the story. Merry Christmas, everybody. Nobody said Merry Christmas to your boy. Merry Christmas to all of you. Merry Christmas to all of you. Anyway, residents and even a senior government leader said they feared that fighting could break out between migrants and Mayotte natives over the island's chain's depleted resources after the cyclone ravaged some communities. Sylvie Zane, a 37-year-old doctor from mainland France, said that a few days after the storm, she was near the mosque in the village where she had been living, Masarobo, in the northern part of the country, when residents became alarmed at the sight of about 20 immigrants standing near the beach with machetes. The village director announced over a loudspeaker, "Go to your homes because they are coming," Miss Zane recalled. "You have people with nothing and you have people with everything," she said. "These people in the beginning didn't like each other. So now the tensions, it's much worse." All right, go into the comments right here. Mad Villainy says, Merry Xmas. Merry Xmas to you. Super Amigo says, I was just thinking saying Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you, Super Amigo. Nelson Moreno says, Happy Hanukkah. Shalom. Well, shalom to you too, brother. All right. So, in the decades since the 1974 referendum, Mayotte and Comoros have taken divergent paths. Despite Mayotte's poverty, French support has meant it's better off economically than Comoros. Many Mahorais expressed resentment that Cameroonians who rejected France now seek refuge and economic opportunities in a French territory. Cameroonians chose to be independent, and Mayotte decided to continue its adventure with France. Said, I'm not going to pronounce that name. Amdelwel Haldou. I can't pronounce that name. All right. The mayor of Mamazoutou, the capital of Mayotte. Now each must take responsibility for their choice. We believe that Cameroonians should stay there. All right, by the way, both of these countries are mostly Muslim majority countries, Comoros and Mayotte, right? And once again, they're mostly black people, man. They look exactly the same. They're generally only 43 miles apart. Yet and still, what do we do as black people? We hate each other. We hate each other rather than love each other, which should be a shame. We should learn this on Christmas, that we should love each other. All right, Mad Villainy says, Happy Festivus for the rest of us. Happy Festivus for the rest of us, man. I hope we all have a good Christmas. So, continuing here, in a visit to Mayotte last week, President Emmanuel Macron of France caused an uproar with a profanity-laced defense of his government's assistance to Mayotte, saying that was better off than other islands in the Indian Ocean. You are happy to be in France because if it wasn't France, let me tell you, you'd be 10,000 times worse off. Mr. Macron told a crowd of locals using an expletive. There is no other place in the Indian Ocean where we help people this much. Now, Macron is just a straight up racist. Macron is just a straight up racist. He went to this island full of black people. And just because, like a few decades ago, their fathers and uncles, voted to stay with France, Macron goes in front of this crowd of black people and says, y'all niggas better be happy you're a part of France, because if you weren't, you'd be 10,000 times worse off. And then he used probably the F word in French. He said, you niggas would be 10,000 times off worse, you motherfuckers, or something like that. That's hella racist. You get what I'm saying? That's crazy. That's literally crazy. But that's how the white folks look at us. And that's how France looks at their colonies. That's how they look at French Guiana. That's how they look at New Caledonia. That's how they look at Mayotte. They say, you niggas should be glad that the white man is still taking care of you. Absolutely shameful. Shameful that the Cameroonians the people of Mayotte are like kicking out and hating on black people that look like them, that are literally their brothers, and they're allowing a white man to come and talk to them like that. That's absolutely shameful. Shameful, shameful, shameful. All right. Nelson Moreno says, Macron was talking facts, though. No, he was not. He was not talking facts. Africa would be much better off had the French, the Portuguese, the English not colonized the place, raped our people, enslaved us, and stole our resources. No. Emre says, which country? Guys, if you're joining late, we're talking about Mayotte and Comoros. Mayotte and Comoros right here. And you can find the link to all these stories in the description. Anyway, going on, Nelson Moreno says, there was a bunch of Le Pen supporters in the crowd heckling him. That's why he started the rant. They didn't show the full clip. Okay, maybe, but still, that's a wild thing to say. So some aid organizations have criticized France's treatment of migrants on Mayotte, where citizenship and residency rules for foreign nationals are stricter than in the rest of France. The United Nations Children's Fund, or UNICEF, said French officials routinely place children on Mayotte in immigration detention with their families, despite condemnation of the practice by the European Court of Human Rights. Of the 3,211 children placed in detention in France in 2021, all but 67 of them were on Mayotte, UNICEF said. That's crazy. So France is basically running Mayotte like a colony. Macron comes there and says to these black folks, hey, you niggas should be happy that we're taking care of y'all. And then on top of that, France is locking up African children in jails. Wild, wild, wild. Anyway. All right. Mad Villainy says, that's insane. Pan-Africa forever. Forget Macron. Ain't that the truth? Yeah. Nelson Moreno says, mayonnaise was always trash. Mayonnaise was always trash. West Africa was great, or in their way. Mayotte though, LOL, they're not like us. Once again, everybody, man, just be grateful on Christmas Day. We're not living like this, man. Let's think about the people that are less fortunate, people that are going through real struggle across the world, you feel me? Because it could be a lot worse, and people are suffering out there, man. Anyway, continuing here. I'm finishing up the story. I know it seems like I've been on this story a long time, but we're almost done. So when the government has demolished shanty towns, citizens have been relocated, but undocumented immigrants have not, UNICEF said. And some undocumented children are refused enrollment in schools. Still, many Mahorais believe the government is too accommodating of immigrants and have fought for stricter laws. Miss Sula's group, the Collective of Citizens of Mayotte, has blocked the entrance to the office of the prefect, France's top official in the territory, since October to prevent immigrants from going there to acquire legal documents. They believed government officials were granting residency permits to foreigners too freely, she said. But the migrants say that the opposite is true and that they live in fear, facing police stops so aggressive that they have sometimes led to Mahorais accidentally being deported. 2 days before the cyclone arrived, a 34-year-old woman from Comoros, who is not being identified to protect her identity, was deported to Comoros, leaving behind her 5 children, all of whom were born on Mayotte. It was the 3rd time she had been deported since she moved to Mayotte in 2009. She cried day and night, she said, worried that her children would not survive the vicious 120-mile-per-hour winds in the tin shack where they lived on a steep hillside. But the day after the storm passed, her 14-year-old daughter, her eldest child, called her in tears and said they had all survived. 4 days later, the woman said she paid 300 euros, or about $312, to cram into a kwasa kwasa, which is a wooden boat, treacherous 11-hour journey to Mayotte illegally. She arrived at 3 a.m. last Friday, happy to be reunited with her children. They're always sending me back to Comoros like a game, she said. There's a day that I will die at sea. Absolutely crazy. Crazy story. Go into the comments here. Nelson Moreno says, give them $300 billion and leave the island independent. It will still be trash. Man, Nelson's starting to sound like a white supremacist, man. My guy tripping. But yeah, France should pay reparations. France should definitely pay reparations to the people of Mayotte. You get what I'm saying? Listen, man, as black people, we should not be so caught up in nationalism that we turn a blind eye to our own people, man. And while I have, started thinking more deeply about Pan-Africanism, yeah, especially since the election in the U.S., and when I think about my own future, like where I'm planning to live permanently and die, you know what I mean? Like, these borders are drawn up by Europeans. Mayotte, Comoros, basically the whole African continent. We should not be more loyal to a nation than we are to the idea of loving blackness and hating white supremacy. That's what I've got to say about that. You get what I'm saying? Nelson Moreno says, France can only pay in blood, but Mayonnaise is still using wooden boats. Anyway, who out here is lactose intolerant, man? Who out here is lactose intolerant? I am. Now, this Christmas, I'm about to eat, after I hop off this live stream, I'm going to eat a lot of stuff, and some of it has to do with cheese, man. And I love cheese. I love ice cream. I love anything with basically milk in it, butter, all that sort of stuff, man. So I wanted to know this. I'm lactose intolerant. Can I eat dairy anyway? Some dairy products are easier to digest than others. Here's how to identify the ones that may cause the least trouble. Now, this is me being on my old man shit. That's why I got the suspenders on today, popping my shit like this, you feel me? But hey, I know a lot of black men out there are lactose intolerant. And, if you still want to eat cheese or ice cream or whatever, you got to know how to take care of yourself. Because as black men, our age, like as black men in America, like we're only expected to live, to like 60, 70 years, 65 or 70 years old is like the life expectancy of black men, which is like some of the lowest in the country. We need to take care of ourselves and our health, you feel me? So that's why I'm going to be reading this article, right? Super Amigo says aged cheese. Okay, my favorite cheese is Munster. I like Munster, I like Swiss. I basically like sharp cheddar because I'm super American, you feel me? I like sharp cheddar. I really love sharp cheddar, but also Munster, pepper jack. What type of cheeses y'all like, man? Fast loves to eat yeast infections. Okay. Nelson Moreno says, I love white women. I don't know if that's a type of cheese, guys. Anyway, this article was written by Caroline Hopkins Lagapsky, published on December 24th, 2024. I recently learned that I'm lactose intolerant, the questioner said. Do I really need to avoid all dairy, or are some products safe to eat? Some 30 to 50 million people in the United States have lactose intolerance. This means their bodies can't adequately break down lactose, the sugar present in milk. The result can be uncomfortable gas, bloating, nausea, diarrhea, and abdominal pain. That's me after like my favorite Ben & Jerry's. Symptoms of eating a lactose-rich food, said Beth Farrell-Jenks, a dietitian and assistant professor of nutrition at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. The good news, while individual tolerance to dairy foods can vary, certain lower lactose dairy products like hard cheeses and yogurts can help keep lactose intolerance symptoms at bay. So this is good news for me. I'm going to continue to eat cheese, man. I might just have to be like my dad and pop them lactose pills so I can continue to eat my ice cream, man, because I'm not giving up pizza. I'm not giving up cheeseburgers. I'm not giving up none of that. You feel me? Anyway, jump in here. So how to eat with lactose intolerance. This is for all my 30 plus people, all my older black men out there. We got to take care of our health. And some of us are lactose intolerant. Let's go. So trouble with lactose intolerance tends to begin in adulthood when our bodies gradually make less lactase, an enzyme that breaks down lactose. Some people might not notice this change in their digestion, said Dr. Sunita Krishnareddy, a gastroenterologist at Columbia University Irving Medical Center in New York. I cannot pronounce that type of doctor. That is a wild specialty to have as a medical professional. Anyway, but others may have symptoms so severe that they experience nausea and vomiting after eating certain foods, said Dr. Nitin K. Ahuja, a gastroenterologist at Penn Medicine in Philadelphia. Understanding your triggers involves some trial and error. You might start by eliminating all dairy from your diet and then gradually reintroduce small amounts of certain food and drinks containing lactose to see how you feel afterward. Here are the dairy products most and least likely to exacerbate your symptoms. All right. So Nelson Moreno says, I'm never giving up white women even though they make me sick. That's funny. That's funny. We might have to give up white women in 2025, guys. Super Amigo says, audio is cutting out for me. Wellness Secret says, good morning, Unc. I'm not Unc status, guys. I'm trying to keep it fit. You know what I mean? Trying to keep it tight, trying to keep it right, going to the gym, 100 push-ups every day. You feel me? Y'all can call me Unc, man, but call me comrade. I'll take Unc over bro. I would not like to be called bro. All right, Nelson Moreno says, I got you, Simon. Okay. Anyway. So here are the worst things to drink or eat as a lactose intolerant person. Dairy milk. All right, dairy milk, skim, 1%, 2%, and whole milk all contain between 12 and 12.5 grams of lactose per cup. That's around the maximum amount of lactose people with an intolerance can consume per day without having symptoms, said Ella Haddad, a dietitian and professor emeritus of nutrition at Loma Linda University in California. So try to limit yourself to 1 glass of milk per day or less if you're consuming other types of dairy. I definitely don't consume like regular milk. It's always got to be the lactose mentage, lactose-free milk. And, I try to get like 2% lactose-free milk. I've never really understood like the different percentages of milk, right? And I've never really cared as well because I do drink a lot of milk, but it's not like, I don't feel like it just automatically makes you fat or it's naturally unhealthy, but somebody's got to educate me on that. I'm definitely going to start like caring more about my health and what I consume in 2025, especially as I'm going to have my 35th birthday. But maybe I should watch what type of milk I'm consuming. Anyway, Nelson Moreno says, when Simon enters the gym, they call him daddy. You funny, Nelson. You a funny dude. Wellness Secret says, why don't you like being called bro? Number one, because I don't like being called bro because the word bro comes from Black American culture. And during the Vietnam War, Black American soldiers who went out there to Vietnam, they were referring to each other as brother and bro as a way to have camaraderie. That was also during the time of the radical Black Panther movement and many other radical movements. So just like many other things in the English language, bro comes from us. And like many other things in the English language, it ends up being used by people that are anti-Black. The same way the word based and woke came from Black American culture. Nowadays, you'll have racist white folks calling something based and denigrating things that are woke. At the same time, calling each other bro and giving each other the fist, the pound fist like this. I want everybody to know this. If you're tuning into the live stream right now, pounding somebody's fist when you meet them like this comes from Black American culture. Because during the Vietnam War, Black American soldiers were not allowed to throw up the Panther fist. But to greet each other, the Black soldiers ended up giving each other the pound like this. So that's why I don't like being called bro. Because number one, Wellness Secrets, most likely you're a white man. Most likely you harbor some anti-Blackness within you because you came into my content saying that it was okay for Black people to be called the N-word while I was traveling in Albania. And you told me to stop playing the victim. So that's why I don't like being called bro. I'm a radical leftist, communist, all that sort of stuff as well. So that's why I prefer being called comrade as well. So address me as such, bitch. Continuing here. Unaged or fresh cheese. Cheese generally contains less lactose than milk, but some varieties have more than others. Cheeses that haven't been aged, meaning they haven't been left to ripen for weeks, months, or years, typically contain more lactose than aged cheeses, Ms. Jenks said. This is because during the aging process, bacteria breaks lactose down, converting it into lactic acid. Unaged cheeses tend to be soft and moist and often come in a tub. A half-cup serving of cottage cheese with 2% milk fat contains about 4 grams of lactose. 2 tablespoons of fat-free cream cheese has nearly 2 grams, while unaged cheeses are probably more tolerable than dairy milk. Ms. Jenks recommends limiting them when you have the choice. I mean, that's not going to happen for me. I'm going to continue to consume cheese, but definitely I should look into getting the lactose-free cheese. And I've always hated cottage cheese. Does anybody out there like cottage cheese? I don't know anybody who eats cottage cheese and doesn't look like cottage cheese. Always thought it was nasty. Okay, Wellness Secret says, so what, we can't use words that came from black culture? I'm sure lots of African Americans use white men words and nobody shamed them. Give me some words white people invented. And I'm not talking about the language, because of course we speak English, French, Portuguese, etc., because you raped our mothers and took us from our national homelands and cut out our tongues when we spoke our natural language. But give me some words that white people invented as actual slang or common phrases in the English language. I will wait. Somebody tell me any words that white people invented, American white folks invented. Give me anything. Because when we look at the English language, all the innovations that have come, dude does not come from white folks. Dude does not come from white folks. Dude does not come from white folks. We were the first people to say dude. We were the first people to say dude, so that's done, okay? Give me another one. Give me anything, okay? All right, Wellness Secrets, once again, Wellness Secrets, I asked you a question. It's not about hating white folks. We hate white supremacy and we hate anti-blackness. And we hate when people take what's part of our culture and then try to distort it and twist it. Number one, I cannot be your brother if you are anti-black. If you think it's okay for black people to be called racial slurs out in the street, you are not my brother, so you shouldn't call me bro anyway. And secondly, if you don't know the history about where these words come from while you denigrate black people, you definitely ain't my bro. So you can suck my big black dick. Okay, on top of that. So no, somebody give me any words, any phrases that came from white Americans in the English language. Because dude ain't one of them. White people say dude because they took it from us. The same way they took cool, the same way they took bro, the same way they took chill, the same way they took broad. Everything that is inventive in English language came from us. And the modern English language is basically the American standard way of speaking. So no, we're not going to tolerate that on my channel. Call me comrade. Nelson Moreno says they came up with cuckold. Yes, white people invented that. Being cuckolds. Anyway, continuing here, man. I'm about to wrap up this live stream. So if you have any more any more comments, put it in before I wrap this thing up. We're going to finish this article about, Narmon Revon says, so many inventories, any kingdoms that black, I don't understand that, man. English, motherfucker, do you speak it? Anyway, let's go to ice cream now. We're talking about ice cream for our lactose-free people here. So, many ice creams, which are mainly made from milk and cream, are rich in lactose and therefore should be limited. But some versions contain more lactose than others. If an ice cream contains more milk than cream, you can tell by checking if milk is listed before cream on the ingredients list. It is probably rich in lactose and therefore harder to digest, Dr. Haddad said. This is because milk contains more lactose than cream. Okay, so the worst things to eat for lactose intolerant people: dairy milk, unaged or fresh cheese, and ice cream. Okay, yeah, I don't think I eat fresh cheese. Eat a lot of processed cheese, man. Shredded cheese, man. That shit can't be real. That's cheese product. So what's okay in moderation? Okay in moderation. Let's go to hard cheese. So varieties like Parmesan, cheddar, and Swiss have been aged and therefore contain very little lactose and are often easier to digest than softer, unaged varieties. Dr. Coretti said, harder cheeses tend to taste sharper and include an outer rind. And 1 1/2 ounce serving of Parmesan or cheddar, for instance, contains less than 1/10 of a gram of lactose. Other fermented dairy products, fermented dairy foods like yogurt, kefir, and sour cream, contain bacteria that help break down lactose. Dr. Krishna Reddy said, this lessens the load on your small intestine, making those foods easier to digest. And butter. This kitchen staple is made from milk, cream, or both by separating the fat from the rest of the liquid, leaving most of the lactose behind, Dr. Haddad said. 1 pat of butter and 1 tablespoon of cream each contain about 1/2 gram of lactose or less. Going here to the comment section. So Nelson Moreno says, wellness be eating the cheese out of his dog's penis. Okay, that you wild. Y'all wild. Nelson, go get him. Mad Felony says, Gouda is my jam, but I try not to eat dairy. Gouda is okay. I think I bought some Gouda today. Gouda is just hella fatty. I think Gouda is like one of the fattiest cheeses. It's okay. Man, I'm more of a mozzarella guy. Mozzarella, cheddar, you feel me? Pepper jack cheese, you feel me? Parmesan on pizza. Parmesan on pizza be hitting. I can't find that. You know, in America, we got that Parmesan that you shake out of that little thing and it comes out like cocaine flakes. You feel me? That Parmesan be hitting so good. All right, goat cheese too, good stuff. I don't think I've ever had goat cheese. Maybe I have. I just can't remember me seeking it out or purposely like having it fed to me. Anyway, Bakula Bakas, isn't cheese dried spoiled milk? I mean, yeah, generally. I mean, that's how they make cheese. An interesting history about cheese. People said that they discovered it because back in the day, people would make sacks out of the stomachs of animals, right? And, they would put milk in those sacks that they would carry around from the animals. And then over time, they found out that milk that was left in this animal stomach that they were carrying curdled up and spoiled. But then people ate it and they thought it was good. And that's how cheese was invented. Nelson Moreno says he calls them cheese sticks, about wellness, sucking cheese out of his man's dick. Y'all wild. Super Amigo says not spoiled. It's made with enzymes, kind of like spoiling, but separation. Nelson Moreno says, did you see that cheddar crying for Young Thug? All right, Wellness Seeker says, y'all have a great day. Peace. Merry Christmas to you, Wellness Secrets. Continuing here. We're going to finish up the article right here. So for our lactose-free people, let's get this out of the way. Many supermarkets carry lactose-free dairy products like milk, cheese, yogurt, and ice cream. They are regular dairy products made from milk, but with the lactase enzyme mixed in. This makes them more tolerable if you're lactose intolerant, Miss Junk said. Dairy-free products like milk made from almonds, soy, or oats, cheese made from nuts, and ice cream made from soy or coconuts are also lactose-free. Over-the-counter lactase enzyme supplements, which can be swallowed or chewed, can help reduce your indigestion systems when taken with a meal. They contain the lactase enzyme so your body doesn't have to make it itself, Dr. Krishnavati said. While many people can tell if they're lactose intolerant on their own, Dr. Ahuja said that it's usually a good idea to see a doctor for a proper diagnosis. Other conditions like food allergies or inflammatory bowel disease can cause similar symptoms. All right, so we're wrapping up this live stream. It's been an hour. Shout out to everybody here. Matt Villainy says, ironically, a good pizza is life to me, Italian food in general. I mean, man, I might down a pizza right after this live stream, man. I don't know, man. Nelson Moreno says, can you cover black celebrities and the dangers of snowbuddy mind control? I mean, Dr. Umar already did that. Super Amigo says, I gotta go. Thank you for this morning enlightenment. Later, homie. Shout out to Super Amigo. Peace to you. Nelson Moreno says, Italians are the king of cheese. Shout out to Luigi Mangione. Luigi, big eater, big shooter. Anyway, y'all be easy out there. Merry Christmas to everybody. Go check out the other content on my channel and tune in tomorrow for Reading the News with Simon Hill Keeps It Trail. Peace.